Welcome to Addicted to Quitting, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of breaking free from bad habits by becoming addicted to the benefits of quitting the habits that no longer serve us. I am your host, Gentry, a divorced mom of 4 boys, certified public accountant, and a certified life and recovery coach, living a sober lifestyle since May 1st of 2018. I am so excited about today's topic, and I might ruffle some feathers with this one, but I'm talking about co-parenting and the habits we need to quit around co-parenting so we can have happier, healthier kids. If you are ready to get started, this is Addicted to Quitting, the podcast that empowers you to break free, embrace change, and thrive. Let's get started on this transformative journey together. Welcome back to another episode of Addicted to Quitting. I'm going to take a quick sip of coffee, even though it's the afternoon, because I just need more caffeine right now. I probably don't, but I'm going to anyways. Okay, so on my Instagram, I asked you guys what topics you would like me to talk about on this podcast, and I had multiple people say co-parenting, and I was like, I love it! I love talking about this topic because I think that it is so important for you to do whatever you possibly can to have a good co-parenting relationship with your ex. And what makes me sad is that the people that are asking for this topic probably are trying to have a good relationship with their ex, and probably their ex is being a little bit of a pooper about it. But here's the deal. There's certain things that you can control that could help the relationship with your ex, because you can set the precedent. You can be a good role model for your ex. You could be a good role model, a good emotional stability for your kids so that it can improve over time. You can set the tone for that relationship, even if they aren't ready to come full circle with you. So I appreciate you asking for this topic, and I'm excited to talk about it. So let's get into it. So I think that there are 3 things that you need to do if you want to have a really strong co-parenting relationship with your ex. And number 1 is keeping the focus on the children. Keeping the focus on the children. So that means prioritizing their needs, remembering that your children's well-being should always come first, focusing on creating a supportive and stable environment for them to thrive. Here's the deal, though. They need to have their needs met, right? So they need to be fed, they need to be clothed, they need a roof over their head. And outside of like the needs, the basic needs, what is happening at your ex's house is none of your business. It is none of your business. You guys can try to communicate on things, and the more communication, obviously, the better. But like, if they're not being neglected, if they're not being harmed, if they're for the majority of the time it's safe, right? Like, there's things that my ex-husband and they're allowed to do at their house that maybe they wouldn't be allowed to do at my house, or might make me nervous or whatever. But the reality is that you both had that child, and they have a right to raise that child how they see fit. And you don't get to constantly intercept on what's happening at the other parent's life, in the other parent's household. They are allowed to raise their child how they want to raise their child, because guess what? You guys are a team in this. You both made this baby. And when the kid is with you, when your children are 1 or 2 or 7, whatever many kids you have, when they're with you, you have the responsibility to parent in your personality, to parent as how you see fit. Because in the reality of it is that when they go into the real world, every single environment is going to have different rules. It's going to have different expectations. And so they're probably learning a lot by being able to assess their situation, assess where they're at, and assess what they can do in certain places and what they can't in others, right? So like, you can only control your household. You can only control the energy you're putting into them. So if you want them to brush their teeth twice a day, if you want them to shower twice a day, if you want them to eat their vegetables before they before they can have dessert, if you want them to do all this stuff and they don't always have that same rule at the other house, okay, guess what? They're going to live. They're going to survive. If they eat corn dogs at the other house, they're going to survive. If you feed them fast food, they're going to survive, right? Like, if you're doing things that aren't exactly how the other parent would expect it, or how they would want it to be, would you want them to constantly be pinpointing everything you're doing wrong? Or would you want to say like, hey, this is the decision I made to feed my kids this food, or I just decided to let them do this, or I decided to have them brush their teeth, or set boundaries or set rules, right? Like, you get to parent your child how you want to parent your child within your house, within your roof. And so prioritizing their needs not their wants, not your wants, not what you expect out of yourself or out of your kid, but based off of their needs. Their needs are met. And if their needs are met at the other parent's house, how they do it and how often they do it and how, like, whatever their system is none of your business. And so keeping the focus on your kids, because the most important thing that your kid needs is to have love from that parent, is to feel loved from the other parent. So outside, like I said, because there's always the exceptions, right? Like there's somebody that's going to message me and be like, my child is being abused. Okay, that's a whole different situation, right? Like I'm just talking about like basic, like they don't make them brush their teeth at night. Okay, well, you make them brush their teeth at night. You set that rule, you set that precedent, you tell them why they should be doing that, and you teach them what you can teach them, because that's your responsibility when they're with you. There's a lot of things they're learning at school when you're not with them. There's a lot of things that they're learning other places. I'm going off on this one a little bit too much, but I feel like so many times the fights with the other parent is because you're choosing to pick apart what they're doing as a parent and not keeping the focus on the kid. Like, are their basic needs met at that house? Are they getting love? Are they getting time with their parent? Because that's so important. That's what they need. And if they're getting that, then back off. Let them be. That's prioritizing your child's needs. Also, communicating effectively. If there are things that you are concerned about, or if there's needs that they need sports stuff, they need this, they need that, having a good open communication for those types of things, like, hey, we need to set this up for them. We need to communicate like lines of communication for what's important, what their schedules are. I am actually on a group chat with my ex-husband and his wife, because it was really important for us to all be on the same page when we're doing things. Like, we set up an effective communication system so that he's not having to communicate with her and I aren't communicating without him knowing. Like, anything to do with the boys, we dump into that group chat so that we all can be on the same page, and it's just extremely helpful. This is a side note. Be open to the new girlfriend, be open to the new boyfriend. You don't have to, like, I really like my ex-husband's new wife, but you don't have to be best friends with them. You don't have to, like, agree with everything, but be open to them, because that person is going to be an important role in your child's life, and you want to be accepting of them. You want to be open to them being in that. You don't want to cause the unnecessary tension, because again, all that hurts is your child. So side note, in the communication effectively, include that extra other partner if possible. Like, I understand we have to set boundaries at time, which I'm going to talk about later, but like, being open to that and avoid discussing personal matters or past conversations, right? Like, letting the past go, letting things go, and like, keep the focus on the kids, keeping the focus on the kids, keep the focus on what your kid needs. And then working together to establish consistent rules, routines, and expectations for your child. Consistency between households can provide stability and security for the child, but again, like I said, the basic requirements is that they're taken care of, that their needs are met, and that they're loved. Like, they need to be loved. They need to feel loved at that other house. They need to be, there needs to be a safe place, right? Like, exactly how it is or how late they stay up. Like, if you want to have those conversations, you have the open communication. You can talk about what your bedtimes are. You can have those types of things. But again, in that household is not your responsibility. It's none of your business. So having the open communication to be able to talk about those things is amazing, but also letting go if things aren't perfectly in alignment, because your child will learn to adapt. We underestimate our children's ability to adapt to those types of situations. They will learn their place. They will learn their expectations at certain houses, and this will help them as they get older. They will learn, like I need to be aware of where I'm at and what's allowed here and what's not allowed here, because that's life, right? Like, there's certain things you can do at work, you can't do at home. There's certain things you can do at the gym, you can't do at work, right? Like, there's things that you have to constantly be understanding your environment, and it's not a horrible thing if things are a little bit different. Again, being able to collaborate, being able to talk, be able to communicate expectations and have that open communication is great. But as long as your child's needs are met, as long as they're feeling loved in that household, that is the most important thing. Cultivating empathy and understanding is number 2. Seeing their perspective. try to understand your co-parent's point of view, even if you disagree with them. So if, like, for example, talking about household expectations or hygiene expectations or safety expectations or whatever it might be, like maybe you make them wear a helmet when they ride a bike, but your ex doesn't, or they make them wear a helmet when they ride a bike and you don't, whatever it might be, but talking about your expectations, and then trying to see their perspective. Like, this is where I'm coming from, this is where you're coming from, recognizing that everybody has different parenting styles, right? Like I've mentioned, it's going to be a theme throughout. Everybody has different parenting styles. Guess what? If you guys did everything the same and you were on board with everything, don't you think you would have been more likely to stay together, right? Like, you're going to do things differently as a parent than your partner, your ex-partner, because that's why you guys split up. You do things differently, and that's okay. Your child will be okay if things are done a little bit differently, but having that open communication, being able to see from their perspective, and then practicing empathy. So like putting yourself in your co-parent's shoes and consider how they might be feeling, or what they might be experiencing. So empathizing with that. Like if you are the more full-time parent and you're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, and when she says something, like if he or she, whoever's the full-time parent, says something to you and it's like, I'm overwhelmed with this, I need help, whatever, have that empathy to be like, okay, what can I do to support you? Because as you support your ex-partner, you're supporting your kids. The better you're able to support your child's other parent, it's helping your child. So if you're setting things up so that they fail, shame on you. Like, shame on you. Because your child deserves the best out of both of the parents. And so if you are setting the other parent up to fail, I say it again, shame on you. That is so unfair to your child. You want your ex to succeed. The more your ex succeeds, the more successful they are with their business, the more successful they are with their mental health, the more successful they are with being able to communicate that they need help or support or whatever. The more successful they are, the healthier they are, the happier they are, the better they are for your child. And so if you are setting them up to fail on purpose, if you're making it difficult on purpose, shame on you. You are hurting your child. They deserve the best version of your ex. And if that best, and you can't take that personal. If your ex leaves and ends up being the best version of themselves and they weren't that with you, good. Now your kids are going to get it. Who cares that you didn't get it? Don't be bitter. Don't be angry. Don't be whatever. Have empathy for what they're going through and then help them, support them, be on their team. Letting go of resentments is the next one of that, which I'm kind of just mentioned, but releasing those lingering resentments or angers towards them, because the co-parent is going to, you didn't work for a reason, right? Now your focus is the kids. So you have to let go of those things. Focus instead on moving forward in a positive and constructive manner. Holding on to that negative emotion only hinders the co-parenting process and will only hurt your child. Like I said, if you're setting your ex up to fail, if you're saying we can't meet 5 minutes earlier because the parenting plan says that we meet at this time and I'm not adjusting it because you're so inconsistent, but bullshit. You're setting your ex up to fail, and that is so unfair, and shame on you. So please do not do that. You've got to let go of resentments. You've got to practice empathy, that they are also trying to figure this out, and see from their perspective. I just did a lesson actually in my Quitter Club community about perspective, like how we need to shift our perspective and stop feeling like a victim. Stop feeling like people are out to get us, and stop like only seeing things from one side. There's so many sides, there's so many angles, and the more that you can train yourself to start seeing it from the whole picture and just accepting this person for who they are, and just being like, okay, they weren't going to change when I was with them, they're not going to change now, this is who they are, this is how they parent, this is what they're going to do. Cool. How can we make sure that this is safe and healthy and whatever for my kid? It is cool. I'm going to have empathy if they're struggling. I'm going to have empathy with their emotions. I'm going to have empathy as they're trying to navigate this, because it's hard. It's hard, and it's hard to do it when you're divorced. It's hard to do it when you don't have another partner in the house. It's hard. So having empathy for what they're going through, and then letting go of those past resentments. Like, you can't change the past. You guys aren't together anymore. And if they change and get better, then good for them. Who cares that they didn't do it for you? They did it finally, and good for them. You have to let go of the past and keep the focus on the kid and focus on that empathy and understanding as you move forward, because your child deserves the best version of that parent. So the more that you can see from their perspective, the more that you can be empathetic and practice on like, hey, I know you have to work late. Cool, I can keep the kids for an extra hour, and not saying like, you're this, you're that, you don't show up, have empathy for the things that they're doing, be willing to adjust if necessary with boundaries. You're right, establishing healthy boundaries with that, but being willing to work with them and see things from their point of view, and know that everybody's just trying to do their best. Letting go of past resentments, because you cannot change the past. What's done is done. Move on. And then get healthier and happier and better and find the person that was meant for you. Because the longer you sit in resentment is the longer that you're not getting an opportunity to find your perfect match, right? Like, let go of it, focus on your child so that you can find your forever, so that you can get to your place. And maybe you already found your forever, but work on your healing and growth process. The last one is establishing healthy boundaries, which I kind of just touched on a second ago, but establishing those healthy boundaries means setting clear boundaries. So like, hey, I really can't stay late if you're going to be working late. So I really need you to tell me ahead of time, and we need to set up a game plan so that this doesn't happen, because I can't do this last minute stuff, right? Like setting clear boundaries, establishing clear boundaries with your co-parent regarding communication, decision-making, parenting responsibilities. So like responsibilities like who's picking up who, communicating like what's appropriate communication, what's not appropriate communication, decision-making. We're going to talk about these types of decisions. We're not going to talk about these types of decisions. In a way, like you have to be more willing to have open communication with your ex-partner, than you do if you were with someone, right? Because you're not in the same household. You're having to like really have to work at this communication because you're now living in two separate households, but it's worth it in the end. And you have to put down your ego to do it. You have to put down your ego. Like, it's not about you, it's about your kids. What's appropriate boundaries? We're not setting boundaries to just be an asshole, right? We're setting boundaries because like, hey, I really can't do this. It's too much for me. I need help, or I need you to tell me ahead of time, or I need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. We're setting clear, healthy boundaries. And not setting each other up to fail. And then respecting each other's space. So recognizing the importance of giving each other space and autonomy in parenting decisions. Again, this is what I talked about earlier, like avoiding that micromanaging or criticizing of your co-parents. So allowing them to have freedom in their own space. Keep it about the kids. Keep it about the kids. Their needs are met, right? Their needs are met. You're trying to, you've communicated things. You think that would be great if they were on alignment. They don't agree. Okay, cool. Let it go. They don't agree that that's how that should be done. Are their needs met? Are they healthy? Are they being fed? Are they being loved? Okay, then you know what? Maybe you lose that one. And you got to be okay with that. You got to let your ego down. You had a child with this person who has their own parenting style, and it might be different than yours, and your child will have to adapt, and that will be perfectly fine, because you're going to do what you need to do in your household to make sure that you're raising them how you want to raise them, and they're going to get knowledge from both of those houses, and they're going to learn no matter what. So you don't need to micromanage your ex. You don't need to micromanage or criticize how they're doing it. How they're doing it is how they're doing it, as long as their child's needs are met and they're loved, right? I want you to like really, really dig in and be like, but am I really focusing on my kids' needs, or am I focusing on my need to control? Am I focusing on like me wanting it to be done this certain way, even though my kids' needs are met, right? Are you really communicating effectively? Or are you having a ton of passive aggressive conversations? Are you having a bunch of resentful conversations where you're bringing up past things like, you always do this, or you suck at that, or you're mean, or you're whatever. Of course I can't rely on you. If you're saying shit like that, guess what? You're part of the problem. Because you should not be criticizing them at all. You should not be no, bad. Keep it to yourself. If you need to vent to a trusted friend that's going to redirect you back on track, do it. If you want to hire me as a coach, I'll talk to you about how to deal with these people. We can meet once a month. You can vent it out. We'll talk about how to handle this situation better, but do that. Get somebody in your corner that's actually going to give you constructive criticism and help you get back on track and not co-sign your bullshit. Because if you are being passive aggressive to them, if you are being nitpicky on things, if you are calling them out, if you're talking crap about them to in the community, if you're talking crap about them to your kids, holy Hannah, that's a whole nother topic. Don't ever do that. Please, please, please. Okay, I'm gonna have to quick drink of water. Please do not talk crap about your ex to your child. It's so bad. So bad. That's half of them. That's half of your child. And when you do that, you're making them have to decide if half of them is wrong. And that is just so unfair. So unfair. So never say like, oh, well, your dad doesn't do this, or your dad doesn't pay for that, or your dad doesn't blah. Don't do it. Just don't do it, okay? Have those conversations with adults, mature adults that can help you get to a solution. Don't have those conversations with your child. Okay, so keeping the focus on your child, what's best for them. What's best for them is a healthy, supportive, stable environment. It doesn't have to match the same sort of healthy expectations you have at your house, or perfection, whatever your house would be if it was absolutely perfect. It might not look the same at the other house. So have an understanding that as long as their needs are met, and they're feeling loved at that house, that it's none of your business. Communicating effectively, open lines of communication, working together as much as possible in a positive, constructive way. We're not talking about bringing up past situations, bringing up resentments. We're not calling them names. We're not calling them out. We're saying, like, if they say something like, hey, I can't do that. Okay, that's fine. That works. Cool. We'll work together. If they're bringing up past things, if they're bringing up negative comments, if they're saying these things, you are not allowed to respond anymore. Right? Because we're setting those healthy boundaries. You do not have to respond to the negative things that they say to you. You don't have to. Like, things aren't happening to you anymore. You have to stop taking them as these personal attacks and be like, okay, here's the deal. They said this, and I can choose to pick it up and respond to it, or I can choose to leave it there and say, I'm going to ignore that comment. Like, I've ignored comments with other people, to be like, no, we're not even going to talk about that because that's so off topic of the kids, or off topic of what is necessary, what we need to be talking about right now. So like, just avoid the responding to those things. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to get into those types of things. It's not healthy for the kids. It doesn't help anyone. So stay solution based, stay focused on the kids. Stay working together consistently, trying to see their perspective, trying to practice empathy, even if they do lash out at you. Hey, this is hard for them too. And if you can set the example of like, hey, we're not going to talk to each other like that anymore, and consistently do that, guess what? They'll stop. They will stop. They'll see that it doesn't work. Right? So letting go of those resentments, setting those clear boundaries. If they're talking negative, if they're saying these things, learning how to redirect back to the focus on the kids, to set the boundary of like what the expectations are, what's the best for ways to handle things, respecting each other's space, allowing your child to be raised by your ex without micromanaging, and then just seeking support. If you absolutely need it, seek support. But I really want you to go back through that list that I just talked about again and say, am I doing all these things? Am I really letting things go? Am I causing some of this problem? Go and watch my episode on the drama triangle, because I assure you, you're probably in the drama triangle if you are engaging in some of these negative behaviors. But it's important to prioritize your co-parenting relationship. So make sure that you are doing everything you can to keep your focus on the kids, establish those healthy boundaries, and have empathy and understanding that everybody's just trying to do their best. So even if they don't do it perfectly, even if they can get ugly at times, have empathy that as you continue to set the precedent, if you continue to set the example, it will get better. And that's all you can do is control you. So focus on controlling what you can control. And that's it. What do you guys think? Let me know if you enjoyed this episode on co-parenting. If you want to screenshot, if you got something out of this, do me a huge favor and screenshot it, and maybe even drop a link on your Instagram, drop a link on your email list, drop a link on your Facebook, drop a link on your YouTube, whatever it might be. But if you enjoyed this topic and you thought, hey, you know what, I think I know some other co-parents that can use this, please feel free to share with your friends and family. I'd appreciate it. And if you have any questions at all, make sure that you find me at Life with Gentry on all social media platforms. All right. Thank you guys. I will talk to you next week. All right, so as we wrap up this episode of Addicted to Quitting, remember that each step you take towards quitting a bad habit is a step closer to the life that you deserve. So get serious about quitting those bad habits around co-parenting, and know that the more you do it, the more that your co-parent will follow. So trust in the process, and make sure that you're controlling the things that you can control. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Addicted to Quitting, where we level up by becoming addicted to the benefits of quitting habits that no longer serve us. Much love to my favorite quitters. This is Gentry signing off. Keep going and keep quitting.